Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn, and in this video, we're going to do some more listening practice. We have finally listening part 3. So, listening part 3 is where the listening test becomes more difficult, and there are a few reasons why. Let's just take a look quickly at what listening part 3 is. So this time you'll listen to 2 or more people. Usually there are 3 people or more, or sometimes 4, but there could be 2. But 2 or more people speaking about an education topic. Again, sometimes it could be like a training topic, but typically it's an education topic. So what might that look like? Well, the most common examples are things like students discussing a presentation or project, right? Students need to do something and then they're discussing like what's the best way to do it or something like that. It might be students discussing research with their professor, or it might be, a student discussing what they're going to do their research on, or thinking about their next steps, what they should study, which modules they should choose, and things like this. But typically an education environment. So what does that mean? Well, the language that we use in social situations tends to be a little bit more informal, right? Friendly language, and maybe with more basic everyday language. However, this is the first part of the test where we kind of get some topic-specific language. There will be some words that you don't know in part 3. There are, almost always some words that I've never heard of or terms that I've never heard of in part 3. It's important that we don't freak out when we come across that. Also, when we see the subject, it's easy for our hearts to think like, oh, I don't like this subject. I know nothing about this subject, and we start freaking out. You don't need to be an expert about the subject. In any part of IELTS, it does not check your expertise of academia, or doesn't check your expertise of knowledge of like the environment or pollution or carbon emissions or economics or anything like this. It only tests your English. So, part 1 and part 2, we kind of really were looking for mostly factual bits of information. But this part, in part 3, it can be tricky because it tests your ability to follow people's opinions, right? Do they think it's a good thing? Do they think it's a bad thing? Why? Also, it could check the intentions, like what someone is planning to do. You might need to test your ability to recognize functional language. For example, if I say, let's have a look at the word can, right? If I say like I can swim, can here is for ability, right? Can just means I have the ability to swim. But when I say, can you open the window, please? This isn't, do you have the ability to open the window? This is a functional language, and this modal verb can now has the function of making a request. So when we say, can you verb please, or can you verb phrase please, that means it's a request. And of course, that's not the only function. We have functions for requests, for offers, for suggestions, agreement, disagreement, that type of stuff. So, recognizing that functional language can be a little bit tricky. And the part that students, I think, always struggle with is inference, inferring information. So inference is like a basic thing in logic about how we have fact 1 and fact 2 that we know, and then from those 2 facts we make a third fact, right? Let's say, for example, all humans will eventually die. I know that fact number 1. Fact number 2, Glyn is a human. That's a fact. I know that fact. But what new fact can I make from those 2 premises? All humans will eventually die. Glyn is a human. The inference is, Glyn will die too. That's the inference. Now, doing that in your first language probably isn't so difficult, but it can be difficult to do that in a second language, where you say, okay, that information probably suggests agreement, or that information probably suggests that they have a negative attitude. So you might be expected to check tone, things like reading between the lines, listening between the words and things like this. And that's often a difficult thing. And it often causes disagreement in the classroom where you get students who say, no, that is not the correct answer. This is the correct answer because they said blah, blah, blah. And it's very difficult as a teacher to explain why the inference is wrong. When we're listening for detailed information, if we're listening for a date or a place name or the way a name is spelt, very easy to just play back the recording and say, see, this is the information. In part 3 and part 4, when we get into that not so black and white stuff, it can be quite frustrating for students. Okay, and again, just like in part 2, a few question types can appear. We know we have like matching and fill in like a flowchart and fill in notes and all of that type of stuff, multiple choice, all of those could appear in part 3. But okay, that's just a little bit about part 3. So we would expect not super formal language, but we would expect, because they're more serious topics, maybe more topic specific language, which is generally lesser known than generic or general vocab. So that part could be tough. But okay, we won't know how difficult it is until we actually see what the task is. So you're going to hear 2 students talking to a physiotherapist. That's our task today, right? That's the text, sorry. You're going to hear 2 students talking to a physiotherapist. Now, what is a physiotherapist? Don't worry if you don't know. That's okay. You might not know. Basically, like, I don't want to say sports massage, but basically sports massage. If you have an injury, they can help you to get better after an injury through some type of physical therapy. I don't know. I don't know. I'm on your team here. I don't know. You probably know more about what a physiotherapist does than I do. But we approach it in the same way or in very similar ways. And we're going to read, what do we have here? We have a matching task, first of all. So for questions 1 to 5, and that's the thing that we're going to do first, we have questions 1 to 5, we have a matching task. So the first thing I want to do is to count number here 1 2 3 4 5 and then count the number here 1 2 3 4 5 6. Great. So one of these will be extra. There will be one of these that I don't need. Okay, cool. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read the instructions very carefully, and maybe I will read them twice. What comments do the speakers, so that's the 2 students or the physiotherapist, those are the speakers. What comments do the speakers make about each treatment or service? So we have a list of treatments and services here. Simple task, we only write A, B, C, D, E, or F next to these. Great. So no spelling problems here. Thank goodness. Okay. So no spelling problems, that's fine. But the bad news is that I can't really listen for a word, right? So when we're note-taking, when we're writing down the missing word, we write the word that we hear. But we don't have that here. We can't write the word that we hear because we're not writing any word. We're just writing a letter. And so, again, this paraphrasing is the stuff that's really going to get us through this. So probably don't need to paraphrase any of this stuff. These look like really fixed frozen terms: manual therapy, stability training, electrotherapy, video analysis, workstation analysis. So my brain, as I'm reading through this, I'm imagining some things, right? Manual therapy, never heard of it, no idea what it is, I can't even guess what it is. I don't know. Manual is often the opposite to automatic, but I don't know what manual therapy would be. Stability training, my brain is thinking about how people balance. Electrotherapy, I'm thinking shock. Video analysis, somebody makes a video of something and then watches it. Maybe you see how somebody runs or how somebody walks. I know I need that video analysis. And workstation analysis, no idea. No idea what that is. But these terms, I don't need to paraphrase these terms. They look like frozen terms, they look like fixed terms, and I would expect to see and hear those words precisely without any paraphrase. I would expect to hear those words exactly as they appear. But I would also expect to hear an explanation of what those things are. So probably we're going to hear, manual therapy, and then the physiotherapist will summarize what that thing is. But our question is not, just what is it, but it's about the comments about it. So these are the comments. And this is the stuff where we need to think about our paraphrases, and we have to be quite creative with our paraphrases here. So I'm going to do A as an example, but then I'll ask you to do the others as an example, and then I will do the remaining ones as an example. So it strengthens the whole body. So this treatment makes your legs, your back, and your arms much stronger. That's a decent paraphrase. Yeah, okay, I'll leave it there. I don't need to do more than that. This service or this treatment helps to make your arms, your legs, your chest, and your back much stronger. Cool. I'll ask you guys to do the same with B, C, D, E, and F. Pause the video. If you want to take notes, take notes. Paraphrase B to F. Pause the video now. Okay, welcome back. So I'm going to do the others. It is the most popular. So most popular is a superlative adjective. We might expect to see a comparative adjective. For example, it's more popular than the others. We might expect to see other ranking language, like this is the number 1 treatment, or this is the treatment that is most requested. Something like this. C, it requires special sportswear. So we might get a paraphrase of require, necessary, you need to, you have to have special sportswear. We might get specific examples like specific shoes, or maybe if it's connected to, I don't know, stability, I don't know. Maybe workstation analysis, or maybe video analysis. Maybe they ask you to run on a treadmill, and so they ask you to wear like special sports trainers or something like this, running shoes, possibly. Okay, D, it is the most effective. So again, we could think of paraphrase, a simple synonym of effective, like it is the most efficient or it is the most useful, but Part 3 isn't going to be that kind, and so we have to be a bit more creative with our paraphrase. So instead of it is the most effective, you might expect to hear something like this is the treatment that is known to bring about the best results, right? So we often hide the bit of information inside a longer bit of text. So, and that's what makes this difficult to find. That's what makes this IELTS Task 3 kind of tricky. It is best done in the evening. Okay, this is passive. It is best done. You could change it to active. It is better to do this. It is best done in the evening. So, you might expect something like, you shouldn't really do this in the morning or the afternoon. You should wait until, you've finished your working day, or wait for the sun to go down before you try this. It could be cloaked. It could be hidden inside this broad language, and we have to be ready for that. And then F, it is rarely used. Rarely is the opposite of often. So hardly ever. Nobody really chooses this, or not many people go for this option. I've only ever really seen this once or twice in my professional life. That's the type of language we should expect to hear. And again, on test day, you're not going to have time to do this, but because I've done, hundreds of these listening tasks, maybe not 100 tests in total, but hundreds of these different listening tasks from, many different exams, my brain can do this very, very quickly. It can make these really fast predictions. And of course, because my language level, I'm an L1 user of English, right? It's my first language, much easier for me to do this. But I really think when you're preparing this is what you should be doing. Giving yourself a bunch of time. If you have difficulty with part 3, if you keep getting 5 out of 10 and you need higher, the first thing you should do is see how many you can get when you spend 10 minutes analyzing the questions instead of doing it in test conditions all the time. If you have problems with part 3 and part 4, give yourself an easier chance by seeing, okay, can I do it if I have 10 minutes to read the questions carefully? Can I get a higher score then? If I can, okay, can I do this in 7 minutes next time? And then 5 minutes, and then 4, and then 3, and then 2. Work your way down like this. But okay, the moment you've all been waiting for, I'm going to remove this from the text. Then I'm going to play the audio. So please get a piece of paper and a pen, because I'm going to start the audio right now. Best of luck, folks.
Exercise 3.
Good morning, guys. Come on in.
Thanks, Steve. It's good of you to spare us some of your time.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
That's okay. So you're studying sports science, are you?
Yeah, we've only just started our course, actually, but as I explained on the phone, we have this seminar to do on sports injuries, and we thought who better to talk to than someone like yourself?
Fine, okay. So what would you like to know?
Well, we thought we'd start by asking you about some of the treatments and services you offer here at the clinic.
Okay. Well, as you know, physiotherapists deal with a whole range of different problem areas in the body.
Yeah, what sort of techniques do you use to help people? I mean, I know you use massage, and I understand that's a key form of treatment.
Yeah, well, we call it manual therapy, you know, because it's a hands-on treatment and it just involves manipulating the soft tissue around a joint to relieve stiffness and pain.
Is that something that a lot of people come here for?
Well, we generally decide what's best for the individual. This treatment can hurt sometimes, but it gets results more quickly than anything else.
And is that true whatever the injury?
For sports injuries, generally yes, but it doesn't stop there. You have to do other things as well.
I've heard of something called stability training. Do you do that?
Definitely. This is something that's designed to improve overall posture and body shape.
So it's for the back and neck?
I think I've heard of this. It works on everything and gives you more power.
Yeah, this is important. We improve your overall form, and that's quite good if you're tired or a bit weak.
Do you use any aids to boost performance?
Occasionally we recommend a pad or block for a sports shoe, but not often.
What about electrical equipment?
We do sometimes use electrotherapy, which is supposed to stimulate the body to repair itself.
So that's actually using a small electrical charge?
Yes, but there's growing evidence that the effect is limited.
So I guess you don't use it much?
No, we tend to avoid it most of the time.
I see. What if people don't have an injury but just want to get better at their sport? I mean, sometimes people know they do something wrong when they swing a golf club, for example.
Then we film them and show them exactly what they do. It's called video analysis.
That must be really helpful.
It's what everyone asks for. It outstrips all our other services because it's great for so many activities, not just sporting ones.
Can you help people with sedentary activities?
Absolutely. We offer workstation analysis because so many people have asked us for it.
Yeah, I spend hours on my laptop, and as the day goes on, my posture gets worse and worse.
That's why we tend to suggest that people come at the end of the day for this.
I guess the problem is that everyone's built differently. I think we both need some help there.
Unit 3.
All right, so a range of accents there. So you had the physiotherapist that has an Australian accent, you had the male student who has an English accent, and we had the female student who has what I think is a French accent. So a variety of accents, but again, this is published texts, right? It's not authentic, so it's not too difficult. Speed of speech should be okay. So, we're going to check the answers for this one before we go to questions 6 to 10. So I'm going to put in the correct answers, and I don't think I need to check these. I think it was quite straightforward. I'm going to put in the answers, but I'm also going to read out some key lines of text that I heard that helped me to get the answer. And I'm also going to point out the one trap that they used. So number 1, I wrote D for this one. So number 1 is D. It's the most effective. The key bit of language that I wrote down, it gets results more quickly than anything else. That's the paraphrase. It's the most effective. It gets results more quickly than anything else. Great. 2, stability training. That one was A. Why? It strengthens the whole body. The guy, I think the boy mentioned the back and the neck, and then the girl came in and she said it works on everything and gives you more power, strength, power. It works on everything, whole body. Again, you can see these clear paraphrases. 3, electrotherapy. The answer was F. The male student said, oh, I guess it's not often used. And then the physiotherapist said, yeah, we tend to avoid it most of the time. We tend to avoid it most of the time. We hardly ever do it. We rarely do it. We don't do it very often. We tend to avoid it most of the time. Functional little modal there. Semi-modal, tend to avoid it. Number 4, video analysis. The correct answer there was B. It's the most popular. 2 bits of language helped me to get that one. The first one was it's what everyone asks for. And they also used this nice word outstrips. It outstrips all the other treatments or services. If something outstrips something, you might not know this word outstrips, but you might know this prefix out. Like to outwork somebody means to work more than somebody. To outrun somebody means to run more than somebody. To outperform means to perform better than somebody. And so out plus verb often means to do something more or better than. And so even if you don't know outstrip, you can infer that it probably means to do something more or better. So it outstrips means more people ask for it than anything else. It's the most popular. And then number 5, workstation analysis. There was, which one was it? Number 3, where I have F. You might have said it requires special sportswear, but the physiotherapist said we might sometimes ask people to wear a special shoe. We might sometimes ask people to wear a special shoe. That's different from it requires special sportswear. Might sometimes low modality, it requires high modality. So that's why number 3 is not C. All right, and then number 5 is E. The female student mentioned, she has bad posture during the day, something like this. And then the physiotherapist said, yeah, that's why we ask people to come at the end of the day. I mentioned in my paraphrase, maybe after your working day, which is very close to at the end of the day. So I hope you can see that, even if you have difficulty with part 3, and don't worry, we're going to do questions 6 to 10 in a moment. But I hope you can see the benefit here that if you give yourself 10 minutes to paraphrase all of those comments, you'll have a much easier chance, I think, of getting the right answer. And I really am a strong believer that if you can get it right with lots of time to prepare, then it's much easier then just to work on, paraphrasing faster rather than doing practice exam after practice exam after practice exam with test conditions and getting 5 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 5 out of 10 each time. You're not going anywhere. Prove to yourself that you can do it with 10 minutes. If you can't get 7 out of 10 with 10 minutes preparation time, then you know that your English language level is not there. If you can get 7 out of 10 with 10 minutes preparation time, then you can give yourself that goal of 7 out of 10 of getting faster. And it's okay if you can't do If you can't get 7 out of 10 with 10 minutes preparation time, that's okay. It just means that you're probably not C1. So again, I think, if you really should be aiming at least a 6 in part 3 if you want that C1. 6 out of 10 will get you that C1. So in this task, you should be getting 3 out of 5 correct answers. But this is only half of the task, right? We have some other questions, and that's what we're going to turn to next. So let's make sense of this task first of all. Let's make sense of it. Let's make it nice and big. Okay, so what do we see here? Let's read it carefully. Complete the flow chart. We have a flow chart. Flow chart means one thing happens, then next thing, then the next thing, then the next thing. That's a flow chart. So this is an example of a patient route, but I need to read this part carefully. Write no more than 2 words. I can't write 3 words. Please don't write 3 words. I know at least 10% of you will write 3 words. Please don't. No more than 2 words. Can you write 1 word? Yes. Can you write 2 words? Yes. Can you write more than 2 words? No. Can you write 0 words? No. Okay. So let's have a look at some... let's make some predictions again then. So an example of a patient route. So it seems strange to me, this word route. I usually think of route as like, physical journey. If you're taking a bus, like which streets does the bus go down, or the taxi, what route does it take, or even walking. But a patient route, I would imagine it's, that metaphorical journey. What's the first thing they do, the second thing, the third thing, the fourth thing, and so on. So arrives at the clinic with so we get so that means we want a vowel sound. I'm going to go with injury. I'm really going to go with injury here. Arrives. Why else would you go to a physiotherapist? Arrives at the clinic with can't be a problem, an issue, maybe an issue. Yeah, injury just seems so obvious here. Okay, then what happens? Physiotherapist. So notice there's no article here, because it's written in note form, and so you probably don't need articles in your answers because it's in note form. You can put them, but you don't need the article because it's in note form. Physiotherapist evaluates to ankle. We also get that preposition to. So what can they evaluate to problems with. Evaluates problems with ankle. Trauma, damage. Physiotherapist evaluates damage to ankle. Yeah, that's what I'm going for. And so this is what I want you to do for numbers 8, 9, and 10. I've done the first 2, trying to predict exactly what the answer might be. And again, with this one, we will write the word, and so you will write the word that you hear. But I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes, so take as long as you want. Pause the video and make predictions for what you think might be correct answers in 8, 9, and 10. You may pause the video now. All right, welcome back. Let's see what I have for these things. Treatment is given and again we have so we want vowel sound. Is prepared. I don't know. I want to say like a plan is prepared. Maybe we have 2 words. Maybe we have like an plan, an strategy. Maybe something like that. Number 9, return trips are made to check joint pain, condition, to check joint. There is a word, flexibility, mobility. Yeah, so joints are your, between your wrist is a joint, your elbow is a joint. That's what physiotherapists often work on, isn't it? All right, and then number 10, supervises activity in the gym. Who supervises activity in a gym, guys? Do you know? Who supervises activity in the gym? Have you ever been to a gym? They have like a fitness instructor supervises activity in the gym, a coach, a trainer, maybe a doctor, a professional, a nurse. I doubt it's a nurse. If it's activity in the gym, it's probably going to be a fitness instructor or something like that. And again, give yourself plenty of time to really think about it and really analyze and make those predictions. Because, like I say, I'll repeat this many times. I'm sure you're tired of it. When you are starting out, if you have difficulties with part 3, and I know so many of you do because so many of you asked me, please do part 3, please do part 3. The way to know if you have a problem with listening, or if you have a problem with your general level of English, or if you have a problem with exam technique, the best way to assess is to say, okay, if I give myself unlimited time to read the questions before I listen, to take notes, to think about things, even to look up words that I don't know online, can I get then my desired score with unlimited time? If you can't get your score with unlimited time, you are not ready for the IELTS test. If you can get your score with unlimited time, unlimited preparation, then you work on speeding it up. But okay, I'm sure you're sick of this. I'm sure you want to get into the listening. So get your paper and pen ready again, because we're going to listen right now.
Listening. Exercise 5.
That was really interesting. So what happens when someone comes to your clinic?
Well, let's imagine you're the patient.
Okay.
A common situation will be that you sustained an injury, say a year ago, so it's not new. So you turn up with what we call an existing injury.
Right. Like I sprained my ankle.
Exactly. That's a typical one.
Okay. And I've been to the doctor, and he sent me to the hospital for an x-ray, and then I've been prescribed a cream or even painkillers.
You've been through that medical route.
Okay. And I had to rest it for a while, of course, and that meant not doing any sport. So I've come to you because I'm fed up, basically.
Yes, you need to get the joint moving again. So what we would do first is to assess the damage to the joint area.
I guess there's a whole range of problems that it could be, and some are more serious than others.
And we can't afford to make mistakes. Now, once we know what the problem is, we select a treatment. Perhaps one that we talked about earlier. Plus, we design an exercise plan for you.
That's great if you stick to it.
Yes, that's the hard part for patients because they don't have time or they get bored. So we ask them to come back regularly. We make appointments and we monitor the movement in the joint each time.
And you expect that to work?
Yes, and it usually does. Quite quickly, in fact. And then we can go on to rehabilitation.
You mean getting them back into the sporting activity they used to do?
That's right. We have a fully equipped gym and we devise a training plan. Well, a personal trainer does that, and they oversee the program for at least a couple of months and make sure the patient carries it out.
It sounds really thorough. That's great, Steve, thanks.
Unit 3.
Alrighty then, how did you do with this one? Now, I've just seen a number of paraphrases of the underlined bits of text there. Okay, let's get into answers. So again, speed of the speech. This one was slightly more difficult. I found, the jump from 8 to 9 was quite fast. So I'm sure, if you're a slow or careful writer, by the time you finished writing number 8, you may have missed number 9. And that's another reason why this gets trickier. In part 1, they leave enough time between answers to allow you to catch up. When we get to part 3, part 4, you're under a little bit more time pressure. But okay, let's have a look at numbers 6 to 10. I'll put my answers. I will check this because there are a couple I'm just not sure about. So I got injury, but they used the word existing injury. I don't know if you need existing. I wouldn't take risks. I would write existing injury as my answer there. Number 7, evaluates, and again, you don't need the article, but the damage. I got this one too. So, sometimes there are some answers where you just feel like, yeah, that injury, damage, those must be the right answers, right? Number 8, treatment is, and instead of evaluates, they use a synonym there, assess, to assess the damage. So again, your synonymy, your lexical resource, how well you know synonyms for arrives, evaluates, prepared, and so on. Number 8, exercise plan. I think I said plan, didn't I? Or strategy. Exercise plan is, I think they use the active. We design an exercise plan. So, you're not just listening for that right word, but you're also thinking about how they'll paraphrase it. We will design an exercise plan. Number 9, I was close with that. I said flexibility. I said joint condition. The actual answer was movement. And the synonym for check was monitor. We monitor the movement of the joint, I think he said. But it was quite fast, that gap between 8 and 9, and I was writing down the synonyms as well. So yeah, I don't remember exactly what he said, but feel free to go back and listen to the text again. And then number 10, and I love this synonym. Overseas was the synonym for supervise. Super, above, vise, like visor, vision, meaning see, and oversee, the same kind of word, the same structure of the word with a prefix and verb connected to sight. But the correct answer was, we got this, personal trainer. I said fitness instructor, but personal trainer was the correct answer. I am just going to check the key just to see exactly what is accepted and what isn't. Like, do you need existing? Do you need the damage? I think it's going to look like this, but I'm just going to check that. Just 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, that's exactly how it should look with the correct answers. So you could write injury or damage without existing and you still get the marks. A tricky one, but I hope many of you managed to get 7 out of 10, and I hope, I don't know, probably most people don't pause the video and do the paraphrase. I don't know why, but this is my approach to it. If I was a student doing this, I would approach in my preparation. I would do this all the time until I got my desired score. Once I can get my desired score with 10 minutes of preparation time, then I try to do it with 5. And then I keep doing it with 5. And if I can't with 5, maybe I go to 7 or something like this. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this. I don't think there's anything else to say about that listening text, is there? Yeah, let me know in the comment section how many correct answers you got. Did you manage to get 10 out of 10? Which ones did you miss? Which ones did you find difficult? And I hope you're ready for listening section 4, because that's going to be the next one in this series. Yeah, more videos coming soon, but for now, bye-bye.